thought, let's get like...
Yeah, we want to look some backgrounds.
Yeah.
We want to look
make it look like a home office.
Yeah, that's right.
That's actually AI.
Podcast is a good one.
It's AI. We make it look like we're just doing something.
What a driving! 1 meter short. Bring it down. Here it is.
And how good is that?
The pass from Havili was magic. The shift on for Crotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith. Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy.
Draft Rugby, the game they play online in heaven.
Welcome to the Draft Rugby show and podcast. This is our first pod of the year before the 2025 season. It's good to be back with both Cargie and Nelson. Cargie, first of all, mate, you've been hard at work on the website. How's things going and where are we at?
Very good, mate. The dream's still alive. The Draft Rugby, fantasy rugby platform. We're getting closer and closer. We'll be doing our draft on the platform this year, which is great. Will we be playing a full fantasy game? Not quite, but we'll be continuing our hybrid model from our spreadsheets that we've got and whatever, and building more and more throughout the year. That'll be good. It'll be interesting to see if Super Rugby competition actually brings out their fantasy comp. Remember, we all signed up for that. They said that they're bringing it out. We haven't heard anything since, but you'd think it would have to kind of come out this week or next week if it was going to.
Classic.
Yeah.
Are we sure it's not ours or what's happening?
I was going to say, we know that too well. But anyway, no, pretty pumped for that. Super pumped for Super Rugby this year. I was a bit devil I couldn't get to the Waratahs pre-season game yesterday on Saturday, but looking forward to it.
Very good, mate. And it's worth saying 136 caps of experience with you, mate. You're ahead of Bodie, chasing down Gregan on 139, which takes me to my lesser half, my younger brother, Nelson, with 147 caps. You're one behind the great Richie McCaw. Many would say that you've had nowhere near the impact he has in those caps, but what do you have to say to that?
Oh, look, I think I look up to Richie. He looks up to me. You know, it's just... yeah, it's pretty good. It feels good to be getting close to him.
Very good, very good. And what are you most excited about for the podcast? We haven't even said the topic yet, so maybe...
Oh, I'm looking for the hot shit that we're going to be talking about. That's this podcast. We're talking about the young, the energetic, the fun, dynamic players coming into the scene. We were touching on it a little bit earlier when we were having our chat. These are not necessarily guys that we're going to say are going to be, you know, starting every single week and be absolute weapons.
I will.
Cargie will be because he goes the low-hanging fruit. But these are guys that could break onto the scene, you know, an injury or two away from really, really making their name and being a, you know, household name and player. So very exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is our favourite podcast, or it's definitely my favourite podcast. We couldn't really do it properly last year because there wasn't enough new players. So it's good that we've had enough turnover a couple of years after a World Cup, which is a bit odd, but there's plenty of players to talk about. So we're going to dive into that in a second, but let's start with a listener question that's come through from none other than Mitch Evans, 94. Highly recommend you follow him on socials. He's a rugby enthusiast and he knows more than all of us put together.
Do you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see a graph of how many of our listener questions have come from Mitch Rev Evans as well. It's a.
I wouldn't like to see that. You're not going to say that live.
I reckon he's it's above 1 or 2%.
I mean over the years is what I mean. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
Yeah, not percentage.
He's on everything. Let's be honest. So he just knows everything, hears everything, reads everything. But he's asking us regardless. He asks, it goes without saying that S08E has to get a mention in the new Hot Shit podcast, but how early do you see him going in fantasy footy drafting? What do you think?
Top 3.
Yeah, I think he's the fact for us.
Top 3 rounds or top 3 picks?
Top 3 picks, mate.
I think the
3 Waratahs fans sitting here.
I'll put it out there. I reckon if he's not first or second round, I'd be surprised. I reckon he's probably going to be first round. Someone will take a chance on him.
Well, Cargie will clearly. He just says top 3.
I reckon there's a good chance he'll be. Yeah, but Cargie's going to pick a bigger Pacific Island guy from New Zealand. It's probably a back rower. So
run up now. You know.
He's not heavy enough for Cargie. So I think he's first round. People will take a risk on him. One, because he's a Waratahs, an Aussie, exciting player that's broken onto the scene already. He's going to be playing bulk footy in a team that's looking for fun. He's not going to be the finished product, but he knows how to beat players. He knows how to score. He knows how to do the fantasy footy things that you want to see.
Mate, I don't know if you guys watch the same
and he gets to play
games
Aussies.
I did. He is the finished product. He's in all seriousness, he's going first round.
I think he's first round.
He's going first round.
I've just come to the realization that I'm not getting him this year because I was going to say like third round, like completely unproven, didn't have any particularly amazing stats from a fantasy perspective. But I guess, you guys, good luck. One of you are going to be riding his back the whole way through the season, which, I mean, it'll be fun.
How can you see him not going well? You know what I mean? Like he's obviously... Given a start straight into the Wallabies, he's obviously going to be starting, doesn't matter where he is on the field for the Tars. And the guy just needs time in the saddle, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to be killing it from the get-go. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so in true Cargie fashion, you're going to be building for the future as he learns the game?
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay, the next part of the question. Nelson, who do you like of the Blues crop to replace Akira Ioane?
So there's a couple.
Can you replace Akira Ioane?
I mean, I don't think you can replace Akira Ioane. That's pretty impossible. Do we have the squad there? I think it's Che Clark is the closest like-for-like, big body, physical ball runner. The other option is, very different in shape and size, different style player, Anton Segner. Anton Segner can cover that whole back row. Very exciting player. I think he's probably more likely to get more minutes, but Che Clark is the man that's closest like-for-like. In the role of trying to, replace him.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. There is someone else though. Exactly. Cameron Chrissy, I think obviously he played through a cancer battle last year and still managed to get on the field, which is pretty outrageous. But if you cast your mind back to the 2023 season, I think that's when he really announced himself as a player that can play both lock and six. If he's healthy and raring to go, I think he's probably got some runs on the board. He's got the bigger body that they could really like in that place. But obviously Segner has never put a foot wrong as well. So there's a few options there for them, as there always is in the Kiwi sides.
Yep. But no, the answer is they can't replace Akira. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see how someone steps up. You know what I mean? That jersey's been taken for years, so it's going to be good. And an interesting new balance as well, because they have Hoskins and Akira for the last few years.
It's Segner, guys. It's Segner.
You're locking in Segner.
I put my money on Segner. He's the man for the role. He's gone through it for a couple of years. I think he fits a really, really solid role for them where he can round out their back row.
It just depends what the coaches want. He seems to play above his weight, but he is definitely a lot smaller, and the Blues play a very physical game plan. So if he can deliver the physicality and the forwards aren't losing that battle, I think if they are, he's going to be the guy that pays the price.
No, he'll be fine.
Quite possibly. Is this the year of Fabian Holland, Cargie?
We've got a 4-part question here. Look,
the different questions.
He's a big body. He's a big body. He certainly came on miles last year. He had a really, really good year. I don't know, I don't see him improving that much more than last year. I feel like I'm going to eat my own words here.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. You're absolutely. Yes, it's absolutely the year of Fabian Holland. He's a freak. He's going to be partnering, I reckon, Dunshea for the Highlanders, which will come in our Kiwi preview. I think one of his competitors, Todd Sanders, is out for the season as well. So there's not a lot of extra depth behind him.
Burry's left.
Yeah.
Mitch Dunshea's old.
Yeah, I think he's going to be their first choice. I think he's in for a very big year. I thought he was very good last year. I think Cargie's just there's no hiding the fact that he likes Islander boys. So I think that might be working against Holland in this case because I think he's up for a big one.
I honestly just thought he had such a good year last year. I guess I answered the question wrong. He has such a good year. I don't know if he can improve that same amount he did last year.
Stop backtracking. The answer is the Dales said yes, and Cargie says he hates his face. So,
all right, not sure that's quite what's said, but cool. All right, and the end of our four parts of this part question. What do we got?
Is this with less lure of the sevens this year? Can Darby Lancaster lock down a Tars wing, or is it too dependent on Joseph Suali'i?
It's a good one.
I don't think Suali'i is playing wing. He's playing centre fullback. But the question is there, it can affect the flow of other players around. I think you're going to find it's very likely that we're going to see him getting significant game time.
Are we saying, so of the back three, are we saying we've got Kellaway and Jorgensen as a lock? And then lock down on two of those jerseys? And that last one is between who? Darby and who are we saying?
It'll be Darby. I'm looking through the list to scroll through. Harry's got a thing in front of. Why have we got a blank?
Kristen Riley got good minutes last year as well, but I think Davit should be above him, really.
Yeah, but they're the two that are going to be fighting it out, I reckon. The other guys normally are filling centre. So unless we see Riley shifting and getting games time on the wing as well, which I don't see, but I do see there's a chance that, one of their young centres could push in and get more game time at centre because they deserve it. Mm-hmm. And that might mean Lancaster's getting shifted around a little bit. But to be honest, I think Lancaster is more than likely a starting wing for a bulk of the season.
Yeah, I think to answer the question, which is not how I originally thought about it, I think it does massively depend on S08E, because I think when we thought that he was going to be an outside back, then I don't think Darby was going to hold down a spot. But now that I think he's really been named as an outside centre, and I believe we'll see him probably play the bulk of his minutes there, particularly when you've got two other very competent fullbacks in Jorgensen and Kellaway, I think that Darby will get a lot of game time.
He's definitely getting a lot of game time.
Yeah, nice.
All right. Well,
great questions. Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch. Let's push on and let's start with a couple of Aussie teams, I reckon. So I think we should go up to Queensland first, since that was all very New South Wales centric.
This is a New South Wales
Queensland.
Yeah, I know, but he knows where the value is, where the excitement is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, most do.
So we've got a few. We've got a few for the Queensland Reds. Let's tuck in. There are obviously a lot of players coming back and forth from the Melbourne Rebels. There's some new players coming through, some young guys as well. Who are the players that you guys have your eyes on? I think we've actually got a fair few in this list that we're watching.
Yeah, look, I kept throwing names into the list here. Mine is I'll jump in Harrison McLaughlin Phillips. So James O'Connor's left. So we've really Crichton's left. So you've got two young fly halves fighting for that jersey there.
They've got their young shoot shield fly half down there as well now, I think. So there is some new, another guy there.
Yeah, I reckon he'll be third choice. In all honesty, I think who's their starting 10? I keep thinking of Isaac Lucas, who we've chatting so much about it.
Tom Liner.
Tom Liner. So Tom Liner is a little bit more of a director.
It's because we were just talking about Isaac Lucas for about half an hour. All I could picture was Isaac Lucas.
Liner is more your director, great boot on him. And then you look at Harrison McLaughlin Phillips, and he is more punch the line, step through some little gaps, a very different style 10. So I think we're going to see, horses for courses from the Reds this year. I don't think it's going to go all one way. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to see a fair bit of him actually getting game time. And he is an exciting player. He has the skill sets to become a Wallaby. I think there's little things he's got to work on. I think kicking might be one of the things that he's got to work on a little bit. But he is a very, very exciting player. And I wouldn't be surprised if, there's talk, which says probably more about Australian rugby than anything else, but talk for him being in Wallaby squads and in and around that sort of stuff and getting chances with Australia A, those sorts of things towards the back end of the year, because he will be getting more game time and he will be, really pushing.
I really like McLaughlin Phillips, but I disagree. I think that you're going to see Liner start to own that jersey. I think the writing's on the wall with any Super Rugby team that doesn't have an established 5'8" that owns the team. None of them ever do well. So I think the Reds will know that they can't continue just to rotate it as a horses for courses. I think Liner will be growing again. He's obviously had his first sniff of playing for Australia, and I think he's going to own that jersey. I think McLaughlin Phillips will get some minutes
off the bench.
No, I think he'll probably get a start or two. Like they'll give him a couple of runs, but I don't think he can get enough minutes consistently to be put up in the talk of playing for Australia, particularly when there's so many other fly halves that will be getting minutes that are exciting.
Yeah,
I really like him as a player. I just don't think it's his year.
The issue is I think he is too good to rule him out of the battle between the two of them as the starter. That's it for me, right? Like, yes, I think you can lock someone in if it's clear that they're the man. I don't think the age gap's that big. I don't think the skill level is necessarily that big.
That was going to be my question. I'm actually more with Harry. I'd take it a step further, and I actually think we'll see Tom Liner start, if he's not injured, almost every game this year, and McLaughlin Phillips come off the bench. And that's just because there is an age gap. It's not. I know it's not huge.
Okay, 1 year, mate.
1 year.
Yeah, but it's years being in and around that environment. Tom Liner's had a little
1 more year. Yep.
I think he's been around another two.
He played overseas in the development.
That's what I mean. I feel like he's had a little bit more. So
Better pathway.
I'm kind of with you.
But Harry McLaughlin-Phillip playing, shoot shield, doing well.
You're excited about
playing.
He's gone.
He's
gone.
Now, moving on, someone I'm excited about, and I'll be honest, Nelson was the first one to get excited about this man last year or the year before.
Very early, a couple of years ago, I think.
Massimo De Lutis, Harry straight away highlighted, knew who I was going to talk about. I'm very excited about him. I was listening to some podcast or some video where he was describing about how he really, his idol was really Zane Nongor at both at that same school there. And how what I loved was he just made a decision. I think he came a bit late to rugby, but he made a decision one summer break that he spent all of his money to build a gym at home and just locked himself in the gym for like 2 months and just came back. The next year, I think he was in like a D team or something.
Cargie. Oh, sorry. I just looked up his name. I have to stop you here. Massimo translates to the biggest or greatest, and De Lutis, maximum power. So his name is the greatest maximum power. Well, I had to stop you.
Well, I tell you what, he has the maximum grade. We've talked about it before, but that 202 kilo bench press, he said it
bigger than Taniela Tupa.
He said a record at the Reds.
20.
He's an absolute win. But
I do like the Simpsons reference calling him Max Power as a nickname. As well.
That is it from now on.
How many more reasons do you need to love this kid? But
Max power.
But I loved it. I think he was. I could be wrong. I think he was 17 and he was in like a D team, and then locked himself in the gym and made the first 15 the next year or whatever, or for several years. And he's just come on in waves. So he's someone to get excited about. Is he going to be pushing for a starting berth? Probably not this year, but I think we'll see more and more of it. It's pretty.
He's competing with Nongor, like
it's
tough one.
But look, there's a lot of props actually. The Reds. They got Hodgman. They've got Tumunga Allan. They've got. Didn't they just sign Aiden Ross as well? I know Lewis and Tait.
No, late. Yeah, he's coming late.
There's lots of props though, so
it's tough.
It'll be a big year for him, getting lots of experience, and hopefully we see him getting some game time. So I'm pumped for him.
You need that depth, so I think that's good.
Yep.
I'm going to go the really, really young hot shit.
Love it. I think he's great.
Frankie Goldra.
Yeah.
He's 18 years old. He was playing at Churchy for school. He is a centre who was absolutely carving. And I thought for sure that the NRL was going to sign him. Like, they had so many clubs chasing his signature as just a young gun centre coming through. And I just think that the talent in that kid is immense. And I love the Red centres, but I also don't think that they're, once they get through the top three, then they probably start to thin out a little bit. Like, I think from that point, I think Isaac Henry's probably your reserve centre. And then below him, you're probably starting to thin out. And maybe you could just throw him a few minutes and just kind of let him go.
Question. So I remember reading this last year. I think he's doing a sabbatical year, a linked year in Japan. So he might not be
this
around.
year.
I'm pretty sure it's this year.
Don't ruin my fun.
Yeah, don't take the.
I'm pretty sure
I'm
pretty sure he is not here for a year, or at least for most of it.
I can only imagine that he'll be so good in Japan, they'll call him back to start for the Reds.
Well, he's contracted for a number of years.
Yeah, good.
So he's not getting lost. He's not getting lost, but it's to give him experience over there.
Oh, good. Okay. And anyone else that I can't believe we can't even talk about this year because he's not new hot shit, but Tim Wright, the dog, mate.
Mate, he's 21.
I know.
We can.
But anyway.
Can we just throw a couple other names out?
Yeah.
Mason Gordon. Fullback, fly half, following his brother's footsteps.
Yeah, he had an exceptional start last year, and quite different to his brother, mind you, as well.
He had a rip score of a game. I think it was against the Drua. He started at fullback, and he absolutely killed it.
Yeah.
So that's 10-15 links, similar to his brother, but played a fair bit of 15.
Well, I think he wasn't initially signed up by the Reds when the Melbourne Rebels were having their players picked apart.
He had a training deal or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But he's obviously impressed in the off-season, and awesome to see him with a full contract because he's a talent.
And he's a Queenslander going back to Queensland, right? Same as Cargie. Well, they're both from.
I can only imagine with Green Carter back to join the Reds as well.
That's it.
Dre Parkio as well, Dr. Dre. In the centres, he's another promising player. I mean, you're probably not getting huge amounts of game time, but it may be an injury away from getting some game time in the centres, and I think he will impress if he gets a chance.
I actually think he's playing a sabbatical year in Japan.
He isn't. Ignore it. He actually might be. I'm pretty sure I've seen his name thrown around.
All right, good. Now, look, as New South Welshmen, we've definitely spent too long talking about the Queenslanders, so let's swiftly move on to another team. Where should we go next?
I think the Western Force. We can't hold back on them any longer. I've only got one name in my head really, and that's Ronan Leahy. He's the Australian under-20.
Do you like him?
Well, he's the captain, wasn't he?
I think
Plays both centre and wing.
Do you know where he was born?
No.
Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
There you go.
Very good facts.
Yeah,
Fun facts.
I think
There's going to be something.
I think his favourite colour is blue. You come for the big stats and the big info.
Yeah.
You love him. You don't know he's born. I just don't buy it.
Well, no, I watch him play rugby. I don't.
Yeah. Well, look, if anyone watched him playing for the Oz under-20s,
he's
fantastic.
Good. Yeah.
And
he played a bit of centre.
He was also massive compared to everyone else.
I think he is a centre, but when he's been taking a step up, he's playing wing.
Yeah, getting
at
into
this level to try and get comfortable. But yeah, look, I think he's got a big future.
The other one,
my question about him though first is: are we gonna see him at all? Do you think?
Yes.
Well, there is a lot of experience outside backs that come into the Western.
We've got Harry Potter. We've got Dylan Peach.
True.
We've got
They've lost a couple though.
KB, obviously, I think later in the year and whatever. But
in the last couple of years, they've definitely lost some. But yeah, they definitely do have some more.
Yeah, Mac Reilly's gone over there. So yeah, it's going to be hard to find game time, I think, but not impossible that we see him this year. You know?
I think we'll see a fair bit of him. I think he's that sort of level that you're definitely going to see a fair bit of him.
Yeah, I think the issue is like Bailey Kunzel can also play centre and outside back. You've got Max Fury as well. There's so many versatile players that can cover from 12 to 15 at the Western Force. I hope he gets a run, and I hope he gets his first taste of Super Rugby this year. But he's right up there as exciting young players. I know. Sorry, you're right. He did play a couple of games for the Force last year, but gets a decent crack.
I think he's a great bench option, covering wing, covering centres, that sort of thing in field developing. I think we'll see him, but yes, there are some definite bigger names who will be starting most of the time.
Yeah.
The other one for me is Divad Palu. This could be one that you would like, actually, Cargie. You know Divad Palu?
Of course, it is named after me.
Divad, not David. So
he's Divad.
I'm Divad.
Sorry, true. Aussie under-20 centre, born in Auckland, Melbourne race, so he's coming across from Melbourne. Just another real physical centre, mainly plays 12, can cover 13, hard body, good solid runner. He's another exciting one to see for them.
Yeah.
And where was he born?
New Zealand, Auckland.
Oh, right.
I said that. Don't miss it.
All right, good. And look, I know we can't talk about him again, but I just want to see him play this year because he's now no longer new hot shit because he's not young. But Pasatoa, I think he's 23 now, so he's come on. But can we just see the boy play? You know what I mean? Like,
where do you think we've seen play?
It's at 12.
I agree.
I want him at 10.
No, he's 12, mate.
Put the ball in his hand.
He's 23, just 23. But no, he's played a bit of centre.
I'm always breaking the rules.
Don't 10 him 12.
I've got one for you.
You got one for me?
Marley Pearce.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
He might not be new, but he's still only 21. Yeah, and I actually thought when he came through, he started a lot of games last year. I thought his scrummaging was exceptional. He never looked uncomfortable for a young man. And he definitely hasn't had the same raps as some of the other young big props coming through. But I think he's a real talent, and particularly one that just focuses on nailing his set piece.
Yeah, and I think we could see more and more of him. I mean, I know they've got a few people who come across, but he was finding his way on the field more and more through injury replacements last year, but was doing a great job.
And at 22, hopefully we see a bit more Mac, really. Hopefully his move over there pays off.
Yeah, it helps that Santiago Medrano's gone as well. Yeah. All right, pushing on. Let's keep going through the Aussie sides. We can go to the Brums. We've got a few players here that we wanted to name. Nelson, Cargie, would you like to start us off? Which one of you?
Shane Wilcox. I don't know if you guys have seen this guy's highlight reel. I think we get to see him this year. The issue is, again, depth of talent, filling that position. So his first choice is a fullback. I've got a couple notes from here. So he captained the under-19 side. I think it was for the Brumbies. Moved across into the Aussie under-20s and got really good game time. Scored a double against the Box when we beat them under-20s. He is a very, very exciting fullback. Very dynamic runner. Maybe in a style of runner, not too dissimilar from Tom Ryan. Can find a gap, can get through, strong sort of hips, quick turn of pace, runs good lines, but obviously tough for him to break into that sort of back three in the Brumbies.
Definitely. Yep, cool. Excited by him. I'm going to pick the low-hanging fruit, very easy, but Lachlan Hooper.
Low hanging fruit.
Great surname,
so.
and
He's pretty tall.
he is tall, but it's just made an easy option, really.
You might have misunderstood.
Yeah, that's straight over here.
I think his fruit's hanging pretty high as well.
Very good. No, he's 19, 6 and lock, just like his brother. It was sad to see.
And 7. He is.
And 7.
Right, he can play 7, and he's, compared to his brother,
Look at Nelson.
more of that 7 mold. Like, he can actually be quicker to the breakdown, a bit more solid over the ball as well.
Nelson's job is always to try to turn everyone into a 7. Doesn't matter where they're playing on the field. If he can say they
Only if they deserve it. His brother's not 7.
But no, he was really good. He in the under-20s battles, it was a really good battle there, and he was absolutely demolishing. Not just him, but they were absolutely demolishing the Tars under-20s scrum, and he was a big part of that. He was really getting stuck into their forward pack. So I think he's with his brothers head off for the year, and can he step up into his place? So Tom Hoover had a meteoric rise up into the Wallabies. Not sure we're going to quite see that from Lachlan this year, but big raps on him. So excited to see where he goes.
Yeah.
The last one that we had down, I think, really was Austin Anderson, who is the young centre who got a taste of footy in the NPC for Waikato last year, when Quintapar was not available. And, Nelson, you wrote a couple of his stats down, but 18 minutes versus Hawke's Bay, he got 6 tackle busts and a line break. And then he played at inside centre versus Northland, made 4 tackle busts, 3 offloads, a line break, a try assist, and made five of his 5 tackles. Now, I know the Brumbies were talking him up through the year last year. He is someone with enormous potential, particularly that can play 12 and 13 when they obviously need to find an established centre pairing to go with Len Ikitau. So, there's other players there that, like David Filawea, who are more likely, I think. But Anderson's got some real potential and only 21 years old.
The Romanian Rumbler has obviously a fair bit more experience. But, Anderson has a crack at earning himself that jersey, I believe, by the end of the year. I think he's got that kind of mould to fit, a 12 that might be, really beneficial for Ikitau. Obviously, they're both sort of fresh, trying to fill that role as well. So there's, a bit more a chance for him to break in this year.
The other person competing for those jerseys is obviously
Ollie
Sapsford, but I think he's just.
He was playing a lot on the wing last year.
Well, he gets moved around a lot, but I think he again was someone that
fix it.
Yeah, he overachieved, I think, last year, but I just don't know that he has personally the ceiling, although I must say he did play very well last year.
Played very well.
Yeah, he did.
Cool. Anyone else from the Brums?
Maybe touch on Lachlan Shaw, really tall young lock coming through. They've obviously had movement in the last few years in and out of that lock sort of role for the Brumbies, so we might get to see a little bit of him coming in.
Yeah, let's push on. Very good. I love a big lock, and there's not enough of them in Australian rugby. Not enough of them in Australian rugby. But the Fijian and Drua is obviously a team that you could just name any player, and that they're going to be exciting. It's pretty safe bet for us writing a podcast about them. But I must say, the flip side of that is that it's very hard to get information about their players sometimes. And it's definitely one of those things that we as rugby fans would always ask for more out of them. Can they give us more player profiles? Can they give us more insights to what's going on and who's likely to get a chance? But I've gone for 2 players who we actually named. I don't know if we named both of them as hot shit 2 years ago. They were both in the development squads in 2023. Signed contracts in 2024 and played their first minutes. And then now we're hoping that they get a better run this year. Now, the first one is Isekeli Rabitu, and he obviously has a lot of competition. First of all, I think Isaiah Armstrong-Mavula had an outstanding last year in Super Rugby. And Caleb Muntz missed the entire year. I think it was with a knee reconstruction, but came back and took over the jersey for the Fiji international side. So there's some real tough competition there. But considering the young man played 3 games last year, and I thought he didn't look out of place. I think he had a pretty composed entry into the game, into that level of footy. I think that this guy's a ceiling. He's another one of those really nippy young players that can beat the man and then accelerate through a hole, as well as with a good passing game and some good vision. And I would just say, any player that plays many years in an under-20s development side is always one that you've got to keep an eye on. And he played for 3 years in a row for the under-20 side, and that's along with playing in the same side as Isaiah Armstrong-Ravula himself. So there's definitely potential there. He's very lightweight. I think he's like 77 kilos ringing wet or something like that. But I think his plan is obviously you just don't get a hold of him. And
I think another preseason though with the Drua, they would have started bulking
78, 79, yeah. So yeah, interested to see what he does. Obviously there are a few players in front of him, but I think he's got really good potential and fun to watch as well.
And keeping in the halves, we've got Philip Baselasella, who similarly we've said was, like Harry said, back in that squad. But he came on. He got 2 games last year, and he played a lot in his under-20s with Isaiah Armstrong-Ravula. And so we think this year could be the year we see him push a bit more. And he played 10 growing up. I mean, feel like a lot of the Fijians could play had played 10, played all over the shop, but. He's someone who we think will see more minutes from this year. Obviously, they've got Lamani and there's another 2 scrum halves. It's very competitive there, but
Volley is one of them.
Yep. So I think hopefully we'll see a bit more of him this year, and he will progress as well.
I think you like to throw a few extra letters in there, but Basalala maybe in case everyone.
I'm just getting too enthusiastic, mate.
Yeah, you're excited, man. I don't hate it.
In the hat. Okay?
I've got one more that we didn't have down, and that's Inya Tabuaval. So he was playing for Racing for the last few years, got 21 caps for them. He's only 22, covers centre, wing, fullback, has a couple caps now to his name in 2024 for Fiji themselves, and he's signed a couple of years there. So he could be an exciting one, if he gets a bit of a crack and can cover, a number of positions. So
he hasn't even won a gold medal for Fiji in the Olympics. How can he possibly play?
Well, I mean,
that's not right.
No, look, that's not a bad start for a 22-year-old, and it's always really pleasing to see when players are coming back to Fiji to play as well. Yeah. So there's a young man, obviously, with a lot of talent that they've identified they want back in their system. So who knows where that will lead.
Yep.
Because I think that wraps us for the Aussie and Fijian.
No, we didn't say the targets.
We didn't even do the targets.
We skimmed so past.
We talked so much about them already.
Mate, we've got 14 names there.
All right.
Everyone can pick one.
I'm sorry. We'll go back to the Super Rugby 2025 champions, the New South Wales Waratahs. No bias there, obviously. I might go with Jackson Rapata. Yes. So I'm mainly choosing him because he plays for Southern Districts in the Shoot Shield.
He's a weapon.
And he's just an absolute gun. I think he'll play mainly centre, mainly inside centre. I like Ndolo said about him. He said he's a freak of a player. I wouldn't be surprised if he's that good that he pushes Suoli'i to 12 and then pushes to 13 himself. So can play in both jerseys, but there's obviously a lot of competition there.
I also forgot about Fiketti.
I was going to say that means he's got him over Fiketti, so that's a big call.
Yeah, big endorsement. Yeah,
and he played with him, so
yeah, he's a very, very good young player who's been in the system for a long while now. So very excited to see him.
And he had an absolute blinder in the trial by all counts last week.
Yeah.
Bagged himself a try. So,
yes.
Sorry, 2 days ago.
My one is Teddy Wilson. So finally, the thing is, we feel like
low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it is. So, but the thing is, we haven't really get to see much of him in the past. And the thing is that Dan McKellar has said you can't develop people by giving them a couple minutes at the end of the match. So he will be getting more minutes this year. And he's got his own partnership with Bowen as well.
Did he say so? He'll be getting more minutes this year? Is that you?
No, he said basically he said you can't develop people, so he's going to be getting more minutes this year.
Oh, okay, he will be. Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was you.
We know,
no.
Look, it's a little bit Nelson.
It was specifically about him.
We know Captain Jake Gordon really likes coming off the field, not playing.
Man, I don't care. He's talking about potentially leaving next year. He's getting on. We need to develop another 9. We can't wait till he leaves. And Teddy Wilson. This guy is an absolute weapon.
Well, we thought he was good to go to get some minutes last year, so he's another year on. I don't think he put a foot wrong when he came off onto the field for his full
phenomenal.
6 minutes last year over what seemed like 67 games for those minutes.
Yeah.
No, he's a very good young player, so it'll be great to see him get some more minutes, that's for sure.
Excellent. All right, mine. Look, I'm going to skip over Joseph Suarez.
Really?
We've talked about him, and I'm probably going to talk about him in every podcast that we ever do. So that's fine. I look forward to that. Nelson, I'm surprised he didn't talk about Ned Slagsmith again. I know he talked about him last year, but he's...
That's right. I waited.
I'm going to talk about Jack Barrett, the Angus Bell clone, mate. It's not... You know, the Waratahs, one thing we're really struggling with is depth in the propping department. We don't have Angus Bell, Tom Lambert, and now Jack Barrett in the loose heads. Only got Tupou.
You're missing, what's his name that came across as well from the Rebels?
Tupou.
No.
Isaac Kalia.
Even missing Isaac Kalia.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rough goings here, but no, Jack Barrett. We're talking about new, young, hot shit, and
he's exciting,
mate. If you haven't had a chance, go up and try and look some of the highlights in the under-20s because he was just making an absolute meal out there.
It actually sucks that the name Big Red's taken.
So anyway, keep your eyes out for him. If hopefully we don't have another year where we seem to be decimated in the front rows with injuries. But
he did get his debut last year, didn't he? Coming in as I think he was like 19 playing Super Rugby. So I mean, at least he's already had a taste. So on to bigger and better things again this year, I would say.
Exactly. And we lost HAH, so we lost the one fire truck. We brought in bring in the next one.
So. Can't miss throwing in also the name of Henry O'Donnell, another centre returning back from his little stint over in Perth, coming home. This guy's another guy that can put his name in that centre role. He could fill, 13 if Suwali pushes out to the outside backs. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that, done at some stage relatively early in the season. I'm not saying it's going to stay like that all year, but I think we'll see him get that crack in the 13 jersey.
Mate, it's good to have some depth, isn't it? It's good to have players to be excited about that aren't on the field.
I think his attack game is there, good enough. I think maybe the risk would be his defence in that 13 channel at Super Rugby, but I guess we'll see.
How good. All right, well, look, we didn't stick with one player each for the Tars.
I would just say while we're on Henry O'Donnell, we do shout out to at Hugh Tyndall, who was very excited about Henry O'Donnell's performance for the Tars against New South Wales Pacifica as well.
Yeah, and I remember before this podcast when you said, I don't care about O'Donnell's.
Yeah, I said, give me Jack Barrett. I think I said, actually, didn't I?
No, you said I don't care about O'Donnell. It was very rude.
Yeah, about our top 3 picks, mate. Come on. And I said, give me 2 props, I'll have you know. And Cargie was filthy because then there was none left for him.
You've got to leave me the props, mate. That's a default rule here. All right, well, how good. Look, I'm sure we're definitely going to talk more about the Tars, but there's some new young hot shit for the Tars to look forward to this year as we are wearing our jerseys. And I think now we've wrapped up the Aussie Conference, Harry, so let's now look to...
Let's take a quick break from going team by team to answer another listener question, because I think it's relevant to this half of the conference. So from Nick Wilson at NA Wilson, he says, with Artie arriving at Moana, can we expect him to score, or to really score big as a key back rower in a weaker side than we've ever seen him in before, or will he suffer under the workload?
I know what I think. Who wants to go first?
Look, I think it could be a positive change for his game, to be honest. A fresh kind of role, a fresh place. I think some positive changes there.
It sounds like Nelson stalling did not answer the question. Will he be scoring lots of points?
Yeah, come on.
I think he'll have an uptick.
So he'll be even better than last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I think he's going to be forced into more workload. I don't think he'll necessarily score a million tries, but he's going to have to run the ball lots. He's at a new club where he's going to have to take a bit more of a leadership role. I just think all of these things are... I mean, it's pretty hard to go up from where he was.
I'm going to say this with a bit more emphasis than Nelson did. Mate, Artie...
He's the leader.
In the Hurricanes, Artie sometimes put the whole team on his back and carried them
through games.
Imagine what he's going to do at Moana. And he's going to be nothing but more psyched for the mana around the club. I reckon he's going to have an absolute rip snort.
And he's going to be... Like, he already has fun when he plays, you can tell.
It's going to be different. It's going to be the year to pick Artie Sevilla. Please don't pick him so that I can have him. But, first round pick.
Well, I think it's fair to say you're getting Suoliti, mate, so you're not getting Artie Sevilla.
Yeah, mate, you don't get both.
Well, you got to pick Tars first, so it's... But, yeah, I think he'll be absolutely enormous at Moana, so... I can understand thinking, it's a very different team that he'd been in from the Hurricanes, but just remember those games where he just picked the whole team and went, right, I'll do it myself.
He is
do a lot of that
more than any player you've ever seen on a footy field.
He doesn't have the ability to play chill, to take his foot off the accelerator.
You've never seen him chill.
He can't do it, man.
No.
So
he will be working hard in the off-season to go, Jesus Christ, I'm going to have to lift this team.
Yeah. Harry, what do you think? Bring us home on that.
Mate, I actually completely agree. I think that he never plays better than when his team is down, and he just needs.
And it's 24/7 now.
Yes. Yeah, they did me the charge last year. Yeah. Wow. But look, I just don't see how he could possibly go down. Like, he's just the passion that he has for the Pacifica community.
Yeah.
He's there with his brother. It's quite clearly the kind of back end of their career where they're trying to give something back. Like, he wears his heart on his sleeve. I just think he's going to be leaving everything out on the field. And I think that he's going to be asked to carry the ball a lot more because of the fact that he's just so incredibly damaging, and they don't have the same depth to do it.
If by an extension, if we're going to ask a question here, will Lotu and Nisi's fantasy stock go down now because Artie be carrying so much? You know,
I do think a little. I think he doesn't need a lot to get a lot of points, to be honest, Lotu and Nisi, but I do think that it will probably take a small downtick because of that.
So there you go. There's your fantasy insights there on Artie and Lotu and Nisi.
Very good. All right. So with that, let's get to the New Zealand sides. The Blues, new hot shit. I'm going to go straight away because he's on my list of picks, and it's the same player that every single one of us are talking about. Not for any reason other than the fact that his last name is the best. He is, of course, Peyton the Prince Spencer, son of King Carlos.
Can we now call him the prince that was promised? Because we threw that.
Yes, absolutely.
Can we take that?
Absolutely.
When we wrote this name, I added Prince. I mean, he's got to be called the Prince.
Yeah.
And then looked up, and it's written everywhere. Is it like? Yeah. We did not come up with that.
Yeah.
But we felt like we did.
No, we'll tell people we did.
Yeah.
So he prefers to play fullback at the moment. He's had the last 2 years he's been contracted through with New Zealand Sevens. But that's shocked me because you see him run and he's so quick off the mark and he's agile. He's 191 centimeters tall.
That was going to be my first comment. He's way bigger than his dad.
Yeah, he's very tall. So he's obviously a talent. He can play make. He's got a running game. The sky is the ceiling when you've got those kind of genetics, and obviously that work ethic as well. So the fact that he's cracked the seven side shows you just how classy he is, and I'm very, very excited to see where he can go.
Yeah, incredibly athletic as well. You know, just like up in the air, like you mentioned, the speed. This is gonna be awesome. It's just gonna be game time. You know, like are they gonna just kind of, does he need to gain that experience being in and around the squad, or is he gonna be good enough to force their hand to get on the field?
I would say he probably isn't going to get a lot of game time in his first year unless there's a couple of injuries. He just
needs Bowden and Para franchise to go down, and then he's right.
I guess it depends. Like Plummer's moving on, right? So there's a playmaker that has his year with them, but they know there's no future to him growing. They do have Para franchise and Bodie, but beyond that, do they try and give him some exposure to cover any potential loss for their two key playmakers, or do they lean on the experience of Harry Plummer, considering how good he was last year? So that'll be the tough question, I think, for the coaches.
I think we're more saying maybe he gets a debut.
Yeah,
rather than.
But let's not forget about Zahn Sullivan too.
Maybe he gets a debut. Cargie, who do you have from the Blues? We touched on already.
Mate, well, we have already touched on him. It was in response to our first listener question about who's going to replace Akira Ioane. Nelson said lock in Anton Segner. Mate, I've gone Shea Clark all day. He's
only who he was, I thought.
Mate, please. He's only 21, Com Games in 2022. He's just a big body, He's 1.94 metres, over 100 keys. I'm sure he's a couple over 100 now, but...
he's basically Akira Ioane with Caleb Clark's speed, right?
You heard it first, all right? I'm happy to, let's just do it. No, he just excites me. You know what I mean? Like Anton Segner, much more of a Nelson player, just the working man, gets a lot of the dark arts done. Shea Clark, he's going to make those highlight moments, all right? That's why I want to see him in there. So
Segner will do those too.
Yes, you will.
100% he will. My one is Xavi Taeli, who played for Auckland, shifted on the wing for Auckland NPC, but is a centre. Normally, I'd say a 12. Very, very, I've said it, New Zealand seem to breed these guys, very dynamic, hard-running, centre options. He's been one of the best schoolboys talent in New Zealand for the last few years, with his centre partner, Tuavalala, I think. And so he'll be one that if he gets a crack, he'll be one to keep an eye on. But yeah, it's going to be tough for him to get into that starting side, like a lot of these guys.
Yep. Tough place, Auckland. Cool.
Let's crack on to the Hurricanes, boys. I'm going to go, again, one of my top few picks. I'm going to go Siali Lawaki.
How dare you?
Yeah, I knew you'd feel that way. So he's obviously a prop, the way that Cargie's reacting. The 21-year-old did debut last year. He's 194 centimetres tall, 125 kilos. He's a tight head prop, so he's obviously in that mould of the big props that are coming through nowadays. He played for New Zealand under-20s. He's the first choice prop for Wellington in the NPC last year, averaging 53 minutes. So he's got enough of an engine to kind of hold the majority of the game. He scored 2 tries and made another assist as well, try assist for Wellington. And I like that he also scored in his one game that he played for the Hurricanes, or he started for the Hurricanes last year as well. So he's got a try. He's got 3 tries across the season as a 20-year-old prop at the time coming through. So not only is he a big unit, but he's obviously putting the work in to put himself in the right places of the field to actually capitalise. So I think that's a deadly combination. I thought he was very good when he was scrummaging. You know, you're always kind of licking your lips as the opposition when a 20-year-old comes on to take the field in the front row, but not to be. He's strong and he's very rock solid.
And he's got some good mentors to learn from there. He's got Lomax, he's got Pasilla Tossi. So, game time, yes, will be limited. But, look, I think they had a lot of injuries which saw him come on last year. He'll be ready to go. So
even in Wellington, mate, he was playing next to Namir and Apasai.
Yeah.
And then Asaf Ramua comes in at hooker for a couple of games as well. Like, he's got some world-class players around him to learn off. It's a pretty handy mentorship that he's going through.
100%. Nels, who you got?
Fehi Fanganofo. Fehi Fine, I'm trying to do this without reading.
Yeah.
Fehi Fine Nofo.
You want to try one more time? Just run that back. Say it 3 times fast.
No. Fehi.
Okay.
Him.
Tell us about it.
So he's coming across from the sevens, making the switch from the sevens. Played a fair bit in the forwards for sevens, used to the physical side of the game. But he also normally would play centre, shifted in the NPC to wing to play a fair bit there. He's just obviously come through that sort of channel that we've seen so many of these Kiwi players, break onto the scene quite quickly in the sevens and then transition across into Super Rugby. And I think there's a lot of prowess, there, and there's a fair bit of ability, and it's a side where there might be some opportunities for him to break in.
I was going to say, I think there is some opportunities in the outside backs this year. Like,
they lost Rayasi.
They've lost Rayasi. Ruben Love wants to play 10. I know he's going to be out to start the year for 6 weeks or something like that, but then he doesn't really want to play 15. Harry Godfrey's probably their next choice 15, who's very, very young and very much a 10 kind of mould.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot there. I shouldn't say that. Like, obviously, there's still Kenny Naholo and the likes, But
the thing they have is they have a lot of centres that can play on the wing, like Allan Sullivan.
They've got Daniel Sinkinson as well.
Sinkinson.
So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that you see this guy get a go. And if he's got that athletic X factor, it's a an age profile where it's maybe not quite as hard to establish yourself in a team.
Definitely, he's got some awesome 7 highlights. Like he was a real enforcer, a lot of good hits. So one of those bigger kind of centre wings. But as you said, pushed out to wing and could be picked in the Hurricanes for that very reason. So
Nice.
Look, we just touched on him. We just mentioned Harry Godfrey, and suddenly they've got no 10s with Ruben Love not back for. Well, I'm surprised it was only 6 weeks. I actually thought it was longer.
I'm going off memory. It might be slightly longer, but it's not the whole season.
Okay, I actually thought it was the whole season, and Aidan Morgan gone as well. So anyway, with Harry Godfrey, they've signed from the Blues last year Lucas Cashmore to come on down. He's basically for all money competing, I think, for that 10 jersey, which is very exciting for the Hurricanes. They kind of haven't really locked. It's been a while since Bowden's left. They haven't really locked down their 10 jersey properly, is what it's felt like. But he, by all accounts, son of a great All Black, and he is someone who was certainly getting very excited about up in Auckland. So particularly if Godfrey is looking at playing 15, if they're looking at playing him there, which he's played mainly 15 for the Hurricanes so far, who knows? So I think at the moment Godfrey and Cashman will both be competing at 10.
So Riley Hohep has obviously made the move from the Crusaders as well as the experienced man there.
Mhm.
Do you think that they'll get picked above him?
I did forget that Riley Hohep has made it.
It's hard. It's
a tough one.
a tough one to see how that goes. Like, they've obviously brought him in for that experience, but that doesn't mean he walks into that starting jersey, I believe, either. So,
Yeah, I don't know. How did you guys feel about Riley Hohep last year? Like, he obviously was brought in the Crusaders to take over from Taha and Rivez Rahana, from Taha Kamara and Rivez Rahana. But last year, the way I felt was I would rather of them had kept playing Kamara and Rahana. I'm pretty sure Taha got injured for a while. But, and maybe Rahana did as well, but
well, that wasn't why he got the start. I think they just weren't completely happy with the two young men's ability to control the game, and he was obviously the stable option for them as a bit more experienced. But you know, I do find that it's very hard to judge a 10 sometimes because you tend to just judge it on the team's performance.
Yeah.
And the Crusaders obviously had their worst year in many years, losing twice to the Wooden Spoon Waratahs just to point out. Win for the boys. But yeah, I think they were the only times it happened last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hohep, right, he was solid without being spectacular. I think Godfrey, I really love watching him play, but the fact that he just didn't get any minutes really there at 10 in the NPC worries me that he's probably not been groomed for that this year either. So I do think Hohep is probably your top chance of being there. And then Cashmore and Godfrey, who knows?
I think as a coach as well, if you were to go, well, we know Ruben Love's coming back. If we see Ruben Love as our first choice, do we need someone who just gets us through this period, or do we need to start working on someone who may also be an option longer term and that sort of thing? So, you know, that's a specific choice, you know, that I think coaches are going to use differently, you know.
All right, and sorry, look, I've started this on a whole lot of conversation here, I guess, for the previews, but no, new young shit, hot shit, Lucas Cashmore. I think we could have talked about him last year as new young hot shit of the Blues, but new young hot shit at the Hurricanes this year. So, any final players, Nels? Do you want to mention Tom Allan for the Hurricanes?
No.
No? All right. You heard it here first. Unlucky, Tom Allan.
I thought for sure it was going to get a mention, but nope, not going to get a mention.
Next year.
Sure. We need to lose some players for then. We've got 4 more teams, guys. Let's go Crusaders, Moana, and then we'll finish Highlanders and Chiefs. Crusaders, look, the obvious ones are the 2 young men, Noah Hotham and now Taha Kamara, over at the Crusaders.
So you're saying both?
Yeah, well, I just don't think that we should really speak much about Noah Hotham because he's now a very known quantity. I think he made his All Blacks debut last year. I thought he was absolutely exceptional, but he's a very young man. Can't wait to see him go around. And Taha Kamara, like, what a place to go. Hopefully their systems are in order and that's the Crusaders machine starts to churn because I really think that the sky's the limit for him. He's a talented young player who I really like the early looks we got over at the Hurricanes.
Yep, agreed. I feel like we've got a lot more agains for the Crusaders, but Marcus Springer, I mean, he kind of announced himself last year. He's been around for a while. He's played some NPC. I think he played sevens as well. But kind of last year, I think we talked about him in the preseason preview about would he lock down that jersey, yes or no. We weren't particularly confident or anything.
I picked him.
And then he did and was fantastic. So he's going to be a mainstay on that left wing, you'd have to say, for the Crusaders. It's hard. How old is he now? He's still only 21 or 22?
He's still young.
Yeah,
he might
still
22.
Yeah, so...
James O'Connor, is he a young man?
He's not a young guy.
He's new for the Crusaders.
He's new, but...
he wasn't a young gun 3 years ago when he came back to the Reds.
Nels, take it home.
I touched him before, and it's Aki Tuavaialala. He was the 13 for the under-20s for New Zealand. He's actually coming across with Xavier Saifoloi as well, who he played together with through Waikato. And, you know, I mentioned him briefly before when I was talking about Finei Anofo, and I think this man has an even more dynamic, exciting game. He is a very, very promising player. Obviously, it's hard with the Crusaders. They have so many centres. They always have centres, you know, and they're rotating players there at all times.
And they've got all their centres fit at the moment, so they've got
but that doesn't stay like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But they've got Havili, they've got Enor, I'm looking at the names, guys. So they've got a lot of guys there that can actually fill those roles. Dallas McLeod as well. But he's someone to look out for the future if his name's on the team sheet.
The other name that I think people won't recognise, he's not that young, it's Kyle Preston. I'll talk about him more in the New Zealand preview, so I don't just go through the same things. But I think he's about 25 years old, but he was, named as one of the best, if not the best halfback in the NPC last year. So I think he'll be a really good backup as Mitch Drummond starts to get a little bit further on in age. It gives them two good younger scrum halves as well.
How good. All right, taking us on to the Highlanders. Speaking of the South Island, Caleb Tangatau. Pretty excited about him. He's decided to take a trip down south from Auckland. Absolutely rightly so, because it's pretty hard to get a place in that Blues team with Mark Talea and Caleb Clark, the two All Blacks wings, ahead of you. And so he's taking a trip down to Dunedin, and I'm betting we're going to see a hell of a lot of him this year. So he's going to be an absolute weapon, and it's just about will he make selection, and then will he make the most of those opportunities? Because we've seen a lot and talked about lots of people with the Highlanders over the years get. It's often seemed like a place to go to get the opportunities, but haven't always seen that kind of pay off. So it's quite a few players that have moved down to the Highlanders this year, and he's someone who I think we talked about him as new young hot shit last year,
and probably the year.
I was going to say probably the year before, but
yeah.
he's 21, despite having been the subject of so much conversation. But I'm expecting a big thing from me this year.
And I love that as an outside back. If it was me, I would just go, well, I'm just going to go play under the roof. How good for an outside back. But also I find quite funny, it's like you just need a team with a bit less competition. Who are the Highlanders got? Just Jonah Nareki and Noah, who's now co-captain. It's like, yeah.
And
Jacob Radamatabuki-Nitkins at fullback as well.
For a bit though, isn't he? Talia, who can cover there as well.
It's just outrageous. It's just so unfair. But Tangatau, I think if he gets a run, like he's had a few years in the system now, there's big raps on him. Hopefully we start to see the talent that he possesses against the New Zealand sides, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who else we got?
I mean, they're probably a side that maybe we could have more names. It just doesn't seem like there's that many young guys coming through. Viveni Lasanga, you have a nickname for him?
When Nelson misspelled his name, Googling him, the first search result came up was vegetarian lasagna. So now I'm going to start calling him vegetarian lasagna.
I knew how to say his name, and then I went, yeah, it's spelled wrong. It's a Q, not NG. He's definitely Fijian heritage there. He's got a chance, you believe, Cargie, that he will actually take the 7 jersey.
Look, what's his name? Sean
Withy?
Sean Withy, who's they've had fairly big raps on Sean Withy, and I kind of think he's been in the mold making that 7 jersey his own. But lasagna. I'm now to call him lasagna. It's stuck in my head. He's one of those fantastic Fijian players. He's in a little bit of that Artie Sevilla type mold. Just an absolute workhorse, and
you actually can't say that. No one.
Did I say the next Artie Sevilla? I did not, but I just said he's of that mold. I was careful with my word choice here. Back when I backed Zahn Sullivan to be the next Will Jordan, that didn't pay off quite as much. So
how big is he? Because obviously Artie ended up playing a lot more 8 than 7.
Yeah, he's about the same size. He's about 100 kilos, and I think similar height. So
if he's not playing 7, he's not tiny, but he's probably not going to be the big physical presence.
No, exactly. So I think he's one of those guys that plays above his weight. I was actually saying to Nelson that last year he was someone I was watching, particularly in the Hurricanes. Obviously, Peter Lackey. I think last year I called it the Peter Lackey podcast because I was that excited about Peter Lackey. But Viveni was someone I was also had my eyes on at the Hurricanes last year. And so anyway, he's now moved down. The Hurricanes have had lots of back rowers. He's moved down to compete at the Highlanders, and I think, he's a good shout of getting some serious game time.
He's 183 centimetres and 101 kilos.
Which I think is exactly...
He's not tall.
I think that's Artie, though.
Artie's got to be tall.
Artie's a little bit taller, I'd say.
Yeah.
100%. Not significantly.
183 is not big for a loose ball.
That's 3 centimetres taller than me. But he's actually...
Guess you want to
No, as in, if you're thinking about a flanker, I would be a small flanker.
Nelson just said he's not big. Okay, good.
How many centimetres taller than you is Artie Sevilla?
185.
2 centimetres.
Artie Sevilla's only 2 centimetres taller than you?
No, than him. 5 centimetres taller than me.
I thought we were coming back to you for all our measurements now.
Yeah, I mean, it's good reference. But you were comparing the two, so... 5 centimetres. If I'm on my tippies.
Boys, have we got anyone else for the Hurricanes? Is there anyone, like I said, a lot of players have moved. Sorry, a lot of players have moved down, but this is new hot shit we're talking about, and I think these are probably the two that we can talk about in new hot shit.
I mean, AJ Faleafanga obviously still very exciting. I think he's a little bit old for the category that we're putting him in, but he's one with a bright future that I'm looking forward to the battle between him and Cam Miller.
Fabian Holland's only 22.
Oh, there you go. But he's just
scraping in.
Yeah, but Cargie doesn't like him, so
this is going to be a recurring thing.
I'm going to be a Hades fan.
Yeah, he's going to. Jesus Christ. He's going to make the All Blacks this year now. That's what I
He is going to make the All Blacks. Do you know where he was born?
I don't, Nelson. But...
It's in his name, mate.
Oh, yeah, sorry. He's Dutch. But...
Yes, Netherlands.
All right. The Chiefs, moving swiftly on. Nels, do you want to? You can go first. Who excites you from the Chiefs? Who's some new young hot shit from the Chiefs?
Leroy Carter. Can we say Leroy Carter? I think
I didn't put him on the list originally because he's about 25, but he's absolutely new hot shit. He's just not young.
He's not young, but I think in 20...
I think I had him as my smoky.
He's probably spent like 8 years in the Sevens. He's spent like...
It's 2023. I'm pretty sure he was...
last year was nominated as a...
2023, I think, in Sevens.
Right.
So, yeah. He's not young, but he's just someone exciting to come across. So, I mean, I'll throw his name out there. I can throw more up there, but I'll do that one.
Leroy Carter. And
so that you guys can do more.
For more context on that one, I know this is kind of preview stuff, but, with Sean Stevenson moving on.
Not moving on.
Is he moving on, Sean Stevenson?
No, he's only...
I mean, yes, he is. Yes, he is. That's again.
Sabbatical. Short term.
Yeah, there's just more room there for
Well, there's not. You didn't even finish that sentence.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with... Is it Malachi? Malachi.
Malachi?
Is it Malachi? Sorry.
I don't know.
This is why I'm not
100% sure.
I'll go with Malachi Rambling Alec. The number 8 who, as a 20-year-old last year, was playing for New Zealand under-20s. And also he played for the New Zealand boys 7 side as well. So obviously always something that excites us when you've got a back row that's playing a lot of 7s as well. Mm-hmm. He was also the first choice number 8 for Waikato last year in the NPC. He played literally 80 minutes every week. So obviously he's got an absolute motor as well. And then, the other thing for me was the fact that Wallace Atiti has been ruled out for the entire year means that there's definitely going to be an opportunity there that probably wouldn't have been otherwise. But having said that, he does have a fair bit of competition with Callum Boucher, Simon Carter, Jerome Brown, like some good loose forwards as well. But yeah, I think he's one of those guys that as a young 8, he's big, he's quick, he's damaging. If they decide that that's the body type that they want, I think he's probably the best in that mould.
And last year, I'm fairly sure if we spun back the pod, I was even more excited about him than I was Wallace Atiti in some of the new young hot shit.
That says a lot about you.
I'm prepared to wear it. But it's a bit embarrassing. It wasn't just me. That was the way he was talked up.
A lot
player of the year. I know. Hasn't got I like it. But it wasn't just me. That's what a lot of
New
Zealand media was talking about that way. So
yeah, he might do better this year.
So I just need someone with huge props like last year, this year again. So
yeah, very excited by him.
Cool. And otherwise, who else have we got? Fidi Sa.
Fahim.
Big.
Mate, this is your type of guy.
Big lock. It's 203 centimetres, 126 kilos. It's only 21, mate. He's just growing. You know what I mean?
We've just talked about bigger. Holland's
now obviously,
bigger, but still very big.
Now look, we're talking new young.
Imagine if those two line up in the second row together for a game, though. That is just some big boys.
I mean, they're different teams.
It's not like the Chiefs don't.
Oh, that's true. So it's not like
it's the fact that they're all back.
It's not, and the Chiefs, it's not like the Chiefs don't have some locks. Obviously, Tupou Vati, Laglan McLannell, Naitoa Arkoi. Actually, sorry, Laglan moved up to the Blues or something, didn't he? It's nice having a new young massive lock to come on and just bolster that squad. So he's some new young hot shit to look forward to. And let's bring it home with the last team of New Zealand Conference, Moana Pacifica. Who we got for new young hot shit?
Well, I think it's probably worth saying that this is, again, one of those sides where I just wish that they did a little bit more to talk up their own players coming through.
Artie Sevilla, he's new young. No, just
I think one of the things from them this year as well is they've kind of consolidated their team by bringing in a lot of experience. not bringing in that many young guys coming through. But Artie Sevilla, Jackson Garden Bashwood.
Leave it for the pot on
so
the
many
team.
coming
Leave
through.
it for the pot on the team. I think that the obvious young guy, which we all know now, is Kyron Tamalfalau. He's only 21 years old, but he's got jet shoes. He's got the ability to put those little short kicks in behind and then regather. Who's the Welsh winger the French winger that's just been carving up? It kind of reminds me of him. No, not Pinot, the young one. Yeah, no, the young one.
The guy that had like the race thing.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but the even younger one.
That said something.
Who's really small.
Yeah, he's
really
small but lightning quick. Short kicks in as well. It's just been carving.
Yeah.
The name escapes us. We'll find it. But he reminds me a little bit of him, just the way he has the ability just to create something with his just sheer speed and footwork. So he had a big year last year, obviously, but I think he was rotated in and out of the side as a young man. I think that should stop. Like, I think he was so damaging that he needs to just have a jersey himself on the left wing. And I think also worth pointing out, he played for Tonga at only 20 years old in the World Cup back in 2023, so before he even played Super Rugby as well. And he also played a bit of wing and fullback for Tasman as well. So I probably see him as a specialist winger in Super Rugby, to be honest. But he is just an exceptional X-Factor talent who I think will score some good tries for them.
Yep, I agree. Have we got anyone in the forwards, Nelson? We're talking about, I don't know if he was new young hotshot, but Tito Tuipolotu, or was he?
Yeah, he's 22-year-old lock, I think, brother of Patrick Tuipolotu. So he's, I mean...
Virtue of that alone, he gets a mention as well.
I mean, that's pretty positive, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
There's also Thomas or Tomasi Maka, Aussie guy coming across hooker. He's only 22 years old. I think he actually had a couple games last year. So he's another pretty young forward that, you know,
Tongan descent.
Tongan descent that's got a bit of go in him.
And the French winger that I was talking about is Louis Biel-Biarré.
Biel-Biarré, that's right.
Yeah, so there's just shades of him. I mean, that's an exceptional comparison considering how he's been going. But I think he does play in the same way. So
I literally think we just named everyone under 23 in that squad, though. Like, they don't have many young players coming through.
Which is not a bad thing for them, to be honest. I think they just need to consolidate, like you said, and try and get some consistency. They have a lot of new faces, but they're trying to stack it with some experience.
They need some more hot shit. They need some of these young guys that they know will break onto the scene and then, you know, the next few years become world beaters. Otherwise, you're relying on these old guys and you need them to keep coming across, which is not going to be that likely.
All right, now before we wrap up this podcast, we've gone through all of the teams in the new young hot shit. Do we have anything else we want to talk about? Otherwise,
I thought we're going to pick our most likely to have a big season. Is that what we're doing?
Exactly.
I'll go first.
What are we saying by that, though? What does that mean?
The most likely to have the biggest impact on the competition. I'm going to go with Joseph Suoli'i.
How do you?
And you two, guys, have you got any?
Nelson, you were up next, weren't you?
Of course, we can't pick the same player, and we'll come back to how we went at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, that's who I was going to say.
Really?
Yeah, that's probably a good shout. Look, I know it's probably silly, but I'm wearing a Waratahs jersey. So I'm going to say Teddy Wilson. As much as crazy it sounds,
It is.
he's going to be playing, I reckon,
So you're basically saying Jake Gordon's going to get injured?
30 minutes each week or something, 25, 30 minutes each week. If Gordon gets injured, this guy's playing 80 minutes each week. So just watch your back, Jack Gordon.
All right, I'll call mine then. And I talked about him earlier, so I'm going to give him a shout out. Caleb Tangatau. I just think Jonah Nareki likes to be injured all season every year, so he's going to get injured, and then Caleb Tangatau's going to have a jersey for the winger jersey for the year, and you're going to have a big one. Do you want to change your decision there?
Yeah.
I kind of do as well.
Come on, guys.
No, additional. Mine was the freebie. I can stick with Joseph Suoli'i if you want, but I feel like it's slightly unfair because everybody knows that he's playing all year. I was going to say Taha Kamara. I think James O'Connor's obviously gone over to the Crusaders and is the established senior player there. Yeah. But you may well see, considering that he's not going to play for New Zealand, him play more of a mental role. Mm-hmm. And if that does happen, I think Kamara, it's his jersey. Like he could very well establish himself as the starting 10 next to Noah Hotham and have this very exciting young 9 and 10 combination.
How good, Nels? I know you're not going to be able to rest unless you tell us who your other one is now.
Nah, I've got 3 or 4. I've just been
changing. All right, yeah, good.
All right.
Well, with that, we'll wrap it up then. And this was what? I don't even know what season we're up to now. Probably like season 8 or 9 of the Draft Rugby show.
Yeah.
and episode 1, 2025 season. And I guess the next 2 pods, we're going to preview the Aussie and the New Zealand conference, go through each of the teams, what we think the best starting 15s will be.
Yeah. So those will come out maybe Sunday, Monday, the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I would say as well, we are putting the videos up on YouTube as well. So please get on there if you like watching the video content. We talked before, I might put a little snippet of our off-air chat about how much work we went to make it look like we're in just like a AI bedroom or something. So yeah, you'll enjoy that as a little snippet on YouTube.
As a reward,
like it, follow it, share it, please. It obviously makes a big difference to us and gives us the opportunity to keep doing this.
For the people that made it this far, you're the only ones who's going to know what we mean here. Just reply yes to the podcast if you see it on Twitter or anything, if you think Cargie should shave his mo. Because
absolutely not.
That's got to go.
I was going to say, I just said, like, if you like the video, it allows us to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, man, that kind of...
It's going to rule out.
It's going to... Well, I was going to say, that makes it sound like we're getting paid.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Nelson.
We are negative money.
Yeah, okay. Good. So it doesn't help us keep going, but it gives us reason to keep going because we know we're not just talking to ourselves. So thank you very much for the support, for the questions from everyone online. Very, very much looking forward to a big year of fantasy footy, a big year of Super Rugby. 2024 champion signing out. You two, anything to say?
Let's get after it. Hooroo.
Hooroo.